In today's video, I'm going to be taking on the task of ranking all 64 elite skins in Rainbow Six Siege from worst to best. So without wasting any more of your time, let's kickstart this video. In 64th place, we have the two Ash Outbreak elite skins. Now in my opinion, the cosmetics themselves, the headgear uniform, could be a lot better. They are quite boring, but the worst part is definitely that animation where it is literally just Ash standing there on the phone and she tells you to shush. Like, this is just terrible. Moving on up into 63rd place, not much better in my opinion, although it is a little bit more unique, is the Osa elite skin. And this one hasn't been out for very long, but again, I don't like the headgear. I think it's worse than the default one. The uniform, I guess, could get some props. And then that animation, although there's a lot going on, I just don't like it. I don't know why. When looking at all the other elites, I think it deserves 63rd place. 62nd place then, we have the third and final Ash elite skin. It's Ash's Tomb Raider elite skin. Now in my opinion, even though this is technically a Tomb Raider crossover, this looks nothing like Lara Croft, and to be honest, I think there are other elite skins that already look more like Tomb Raider, but we'll get to those later on. 61st place, this is one of those elite skins that I think look a little bit more like Tomb Raider. It is the Nomad elite skin. Now again, I don't really like the aesthetic they got going on here. I understand she's supposed to be like an explorer and that it links into her lore, but in my opinion, this is just not a very good cosmetic, and the animation for me is a little bit gimmicky with the knife swinging and Indiana Jones vibes. 60th place then, this one might catch a few of you guys off guard because I know there's a lot of fans of this style of elite skin, but it is Callie's elite skin. Now in my opinion, the reason why this is so low is because all they've done is just given Callie like a new suit, basically. This skin for me could have been like a Battle Pass cosmetic or something like that. I'm pretty sure we've already seen Battle Pass cosmetics look similar to this. I don't know what it is, it's just Callie, and that animation is just terrible. 59th place then, and this one kind of hurts a little bit because I like the operator and I like a lot about the elite skin itself, but it is Thatcher's elite skin. Now one thing I do like about this is it kind of reminds me of Captain Price, but there's something about facial hair and hair in general that Siege just doesn't really get done very well. Now I do like the skin itself, like it is a decent cosmetic and the animation is pretty badass where he comes down from a helicopter, but overall I think there are just so many better elite skins that you can pick. In 58th place then, we have another pretty uninspiring elite skin, and that is the Blitz elite. In my opinion, I wish they just went for a different color palette. It's very like sandy, very plain, and everything on the elite itself is pretty much the same color, but I do like the vibe that's going on here. I like the shield cosmetic specifically, and at least the animation ties in with his gadget. 57th place then, we have the Kaid elite skin, and this one does, I guess, pay homage to where Kaid is from in Morocco, but I just really don't like how Kaid looks here because it is obviously a younger version of himself. Once again, I also feel like the animation is a little bit gimmicky, but this could be a lot higher on a lot of other people's lists, so I understand that this is just not for me personally. Now in 56th place then, we have another elite skin that I think Ubisoft missed the mark on, and that is Jackal's elite skin. Now Jackal himself, when thinking of an elite for him, he has so much potential here, and they really messed up on the headgear. I think they could have really given him a really nice looking headgear, but instead he has like these goofy sci-fi goggles, and then the skin itself just isn't the greatest, you know what I mean? I wish Ubisoft just tried a little bit harder or went through a little bit of a different look for Jackal. In 55th place then, we have a very safe elite skin for Maverick. This is exactly what Ubisoft could have done. Like, this is not very inspiring at all. They pretty much just went for the first thought that they had, made him a welder because it makes sense with his gadget. You know, why not make him weld in the animation and call it a day? So yes, this elite skin is fine, but in my opinion, it could have been a lot better. In 54th place then, we have the Alibi elite skin. I'm not going to lie to you guys, every single time I do one of these videos, I forget she even has an elite skin because I never see this thing in game, and it really grinds my gears that when you apply skins to Alibi, it doesn't change her gadget in game, because why the hell not, you know what I mean? Either way, the one thing I don't like about this one is that little scope that appears. That feels so poorly animated that it just ruins it for me, but the cosmetics are not that bad, I guess. In 53rd place then, we have the Twitch Elite skin. Now this, I believe, is one of the oldest in the game, so I can understand that it's not very out there, so it's fair enough for Ubisoft to make a skin like this. It's very safe, it's historic, you know, it makes sense with her lore and the lore of France, and once again, I'm just happy that it involves the gadget. Next up then, in 52nd place, we have Castle. Now this is one that I wish did include the gadget because it would take it a lot higher in this list, but the skin itself is, again, pretty boring overall. I think his coat that he has on is pretty badass and the animation is fine, but there's so many animations in this video that are just people shooting at nothing, and it kind of gets a little bit repetitive. In 51st place then, we have Pulse. Now normally he's a little bit lower on this list, but now that I look at it up close and personal and I've given it a while for it to settle, I do like the actual headgear and uniform itself. The only thing I don't like about this skin is the animation where he combs back his mohawk, and in my opinion it doesn't look like long enough to comb back, so I've always just thought it looks a little bit weird, but I do know that it pays homage to the film Taxi Driver, so that could be something from there. In 50th place then, I feel like this is going to be one that a lot of you guys are going to leave comments about, but it is Sledge's Halo Elite skin. Now don't get me wrong, I have never played Halo, so this has no sentimental value to me. I do think the armor looks pretty cool, and yes, it does look quite good on Sledge. It's quite fitting for him, but in my opinion, again, there's just a lot of better skins, even for Sledge, when it comes to elite skins, that I think deserved higher place, which is why he managed to go so low. In 49th place, we have kind of like a similar vibe. We have Ayana with her 2B Nier Automata Elite skin. Again, this one is from a crossover and it's from a different franchise, another franchise that I, again, haven't played and do not care about at all. So again, if you guys enjoy that series, you enjoy that character specifically, then you might like this elite skin more. I think the cosmetic is unique, so fair enough to Ubisoft for doing that, but I would like to see Ayana get a proper elite skin that pays homage to her own gadget. In 48th place then, we have Zophia's elite skin. This one, again, very safe, very similar to Twitch in that case, where it's just like military uniform from where she's from, which a lot of people do like, but again, it can just be a little bit boring, and the animation here is a little bit boring in my opinion as well. Moving on to 47th place, we have the Melusi elite skin, another one that I do not see very often in game, and it's another one that I keep forgetting even exists, but at least this one's got something unique going for it. I do really like the vibe they've gone for here. The only thing I don't like is I think the animation could be a little bit toned back. I think it's a little bit over the top, but again, it involves the gadget, which is something I really like about animations. 45th place then, we have the Frost Elite, another one where I do really like the cosmetics, but the animation in my opinion let it down. This one's very boring and it's got like this blue filter, I guess to symbolize that it's cold, but it's basically just Frost stood in front of a fire. Like, it's not really that much different from a normal default animation. In 44th place then, we have the Flores Assassin's Creed crossover elite skin. Again, at least I've played Assassin's Creed, so it means a little bit more to me, but I don't think this really fits in with the Siege aesthetic, but obviously that makes it more unique than anything else we've seen in the game, and I do kind of like the vibe that's going on, which is why it's not any lower on the list, but I do think there isn't any room for it to go any higher on the list either. In 43rd place then, we have Ace, another skin that I don't really like the look of. I don't know why. Like, it kind of, again, feels like a battle pass cosmetic. The animation is trying to be funny, but I don't think it's very funny. It's just him sliding in and taking a picture before he continues fighting, but this is another one of those animations where it's just people shooting off at nothing. Moving on into 42nd place then, we have the Finka elite skin, and from this point on, these are all like elite skins that I do like quite a lot, and the reason why I like this Finka elite is because it's her struggling to lift some rubble. She uses her Finka stim and then she is able to lift it up and move it, and obviously she has a pretty cool looking exoskeleton on as well. In 41st place then, we have the Mozzie elite skin, and this one, I really like the animation, I really like the uniform, I really like the headgear even, but when you zoom in on his face, that doesn't even look like Mozzie to me. I don't know what they did. It feels like it's not even Mozzie's face on that operator. And for that reason, it kind of ruins it for me. In 40th place then, we have Vigil's elite skin, another one where I like everything about it. Headgear, uniform, even the animation I do like, but there are just better ones. So unfortunate for Vigil, but that is why he is so low on the list. In 39th place then, we have Blackbeard. This is one that I actually really liked beforehand, but obviously he did just get his rework, so now he has like a shield in his animation. And in my opinion, the only reason why he is this low is because the animation is pretty boring. He just stands there and he points. I'll see if I can get an old video, compare it to a newer updated video where you can see the difference between him with and without the shield. Now that he has the shield, it kind of ruins the vibe. I hope you understand what I mean. In 38th place then, we have the Echo Yakuza elite skin crossover. Again, not a game that I've played or care about, but I do think the cosmetic is pretty cool. Now again, similar to Mozzie, it doesn't feel like I'm actually looking at Echo here. Obviously it looks like the character from Yakuza, but I do like the vibe that's going on. The uniform itself, like that little jacket he's got on, is very nice. I really like the actual skin itself, and even the animation is pretty funny. And unlike the Ace elite skin where it's trying to be funny but I didn't find it funny, the Yakuza one, I did kind of give myself a little giggle when I saw it the first time. In 37th place then, we have Lion's Resident Evil elite skin. Solid all around. I don't really have any complaints about this, but I guess it could be a little bit more interesting. In 36th place, again, we have Legion, where everything across the board, headgear, uniform, animation, is decent. There's nothing wrong with it at all, and that is why he's essentially in the middle of the pack. In 35th place then, we have the Zofia Resident Evil crossover one. This one's basically the same as the last two. Nothing wrong with it at all. The one thing I do like about it is she uses like a med mist from Fortnite to heal herself. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Resident Evil is also a game that I have never actually played, or I have tried playing but I never really got invested. I have seen playthroughs though. Moving on into 34th place, we have the newer Mute elite skin, the second one that he's gotten. In my opinion, this one isn't as good as his original, but obviously everyone has different aesthetics that they prefer. This one to me is more like sci-fi, cyberpunk kind of vibes, and you know, some people will like that. I do like the little pop of pink color throughout it, but other than that, it's just again a pretty average elite skin in my opinion. In 33rd place then, we have Rook, and this is one of those ones where, you know, they've kind of just gone for some tactical, historically accurate uniform, and this one in my opinion is one that I like. Obviously Rook being a operator who's about armor plates and stuff like that, I think it suits him very well, and I do really like the skin overall. Moving on into 32nd place, we have a newer one once again, and this one is for Gridlock. And I'll tell you what, if Gridlock did not have a literal koala strapped to herself on this skin, she'd probably be a lot lower down. But every time I see this elite skin in game and just in the menus, I gotta look up close at that koala because it is very cute. I also like how the koalas are also tied into the animation as well, so props to Ubisoft here, you've made a pretty good cosmetic. In 31st place then, we have Maestro, and I didn't actually see the animation for this one until I recorded this video, and the face I made when I saw a 50-something-year-old man scooting across like that, it was hilarious, and I really did like the animation. The skin itself is also pretty cool. I think it must just pay homage to the Italian kind of fashion, I guess, at the time. And again, the animation's pretty cool. He just empties a mag again at nothing, but this time at least it's a little bit badass because he's got a cigarette in his mouth. In 30th place then, we have Jaeger's second elite skin, also one of the newer ones, and this one is him as like a spaceman. He currently has two elite skins, one of them making him into a pilot, the other one into an astronaut, so I don't know what's going on here, but this elite skin specifically, I think the animation is pretty cool. I would like to see this in an MVP animation though, where there's other people standing around him, because that must look pretty silly seeing him fly around and everyone else just stood there. In 22nd place then, we have Fuse, another one of those historically accurate ones that I do really like the look of. I really do think Ubisoft went above and beyond for the animation as well. They added a filter, you know, they they added some music playing, and you know, it just those little details that really add to an elite skin in my opinion. 28th place then we have Thermite. This one is actually quite boring, but the animation really makes up for it in my opinion, where he's got like gunpowder in his hands and he sets fire to his own hands before extinguishing it, and the context of him being Thermite and blowing big ass holes in walls, I think it's just absolutely badass. In 27th place then we have the Mirror elite skin, and this is one that I don't really like the animation of too much. It is unique however, but it is the headgear and uniform for me that really make up for it. The one thing I do notice every time I look at it though is her feet look really small in those pants. I don't know what's going on. In 26th place then we have Glaz as like a Russian mafia member. I really like the skin, the vibe that's going on here, and for the animation as well, I think it's badass that he flicks up a coin and snipes it out of the air before it falls in front of the camera. I think the vibe of this is just perfect, especially for Glaz, and I think they captured a very badass side of him. 25th place we have the Valkyrie elite skin, another one that I like quite a lot. Nothing to complain about here. I like everything. It's all pretty unique. 24th place we have the Warden elite skin. This is one that I wasn't too keen on the first couple of times I did one of these videos, but now that I'm looking at it and talking about uniqueness, this is very unique to Warden, and only Warden could pull this off. So I think Ubisoft did a pretty good job with it. So he gets up into 24th place. In 23rd place then we have the Dokkaebi elite skin. If you have seen my older videos where I do these kind of rankings to elite skins, normally I put Dokkaebi near the bottom because the animation, like music and dance, really annoys me when an enemy gets it happen to me. And the more I thought of it like that, yeah, I guess that is not a reason to be upset at the skin itself. And the headgear and uniform for this I actually really do like, so why am I putting it so low? Moving on to 22nd we have the IQ elite skin. Very unique. Again, she's got like a jumpsuit on where she's got like trackies, and you know, she's got like a loose top on, and she's like training, I guess, and I really like it. I really like the vibe that Ubisoft have gone for here. Another one of the older elite skins in this video, and I think Ubisoft did a good job. It still holds up today. Moving on into 21st place then, this is like one of the more iconic elite skins. I feel like the hair that Ella has going on in her elite skin is very unique, and a lot of people buy this elite just for the headgear, and other people just buy it just for the uniform. And I really like the jacket that she's got on in this. Is the fact that she ends up painting her own portrait kind of thing. I just think it's a bit gimmicky, but other than that, all of it is great. Moving on into 20th place then, and from now on these are all skins that I would consider buying, but obviously I'm a bit of a cheapskate and I haven't bought any so far, so I'm not changing that now, and that would be Jaeger. Now I really like this one. Again, I said earlier, he's a pilot, like a World War I or World War II pilot I believe, and it's a vibe, and this used to be my favorite one, but the thing is, where it's such an old elite skin as well, and it has been my favorite for such a long time, I've just kind of got bored of liking it, if you know what I mean, so other ones have just kind of climbed above it. In 19th place then we have Mute, another one of those ones which is historically accurate, good looking uniform, makes sense, and I really am here for it, and I really like the animation because his Mute jammer actually ties in with the ending, which is pretty cool. Moving on into 18th place then we have the Sledge elite skin. The one thing I really like about this elite is that little bit of fabric, you know, like the little kilt kind of fabric material that's going on there. That is really nice, and obviously Sledge being from Scotland, it really does tie into him specifically, and the animation's pretty good as well, and obviously it changes the way his sledgehammer looks, which is probably one of the better things about this elite skin. Moving on into 17th place then we have the Ying elite skin, and although I said about the Jackal one where he's got like goofy goggles on, Ying has a similar thing going on here, but I think it fits her and what the skin's going for a little bit better. That is why she's made it higher in the list, and in my opinion the vibe of this whole list is pretty cool. The one downside is, again, it's one of those animations where she's just shooting at nothing. Ubisoft, why didn't you make her use her candelas or something? That would have been sick. In 16th place then we have Montaigne. This one might surprise you because it's probably going to contradict other things I've said in this video, but I really like the armor that Montaigne's got on in this, even though it's not very realistic and it looks a bit like RoboCop or something like that, and he gets shot with a goddamn laser beam for God's sake. I really like the vibe of it, and it's very unique, so for that reason I thought, hey, why not? I think it's better than some of the ones below it. Moving on to 15th place, we have the Doc Elite skin. This one is probably one of the more iconic ones once again. Been in the game for a long time. It's one of those ones that Ubisoft went above and beyond for the detail. He again has music playing, filters going on, he even parades around his little flag. And just in general, I like the Elite skin, so why doesn't it deserve to be this high? Moving on to 14th place then, this one is going to have a little bit of bias on it because I think Kapkan is probably my most played defender in Siege history, but it is Kapkan and I really like this one, even though it kind of looks similar in a way to his default look. I just can tell it is more like accurate to Russian, you know, uniform stuff. And for the animation where he's playing around with that knife, doing like knife exercises, it's pretty badass and I just love it. I always have, and it's probably one of the ones that I've considered buying the most. Next up then in 13th, we have the new Aruni Elite skin. I really like the way this skin looks, and to be honest, I can't pinpoint why. It's new to me, so maybe it's just an adjusting period, but I think it's very unique and it looks very cool. Moving on into 12th place then, we have Zero looking like Sam Fisher in the old Splinter Cell games. It's just an absolute hit. As soon as they brought Zero out, everyone knew this was going to be his Elite skin. It was just a matter of time, and it's been out for a while now, and I do like it. It's just a vibe. Moving on up into 11th place then, we have the Thunderbird Elite skin, and this is like winter uniform done right. I really like the frosty like details across the whole skin. I think the goggles not actually being over her eyes is also a great detail. I feel like if it was over her face, it'd probably ruin it. And for the animation itself, it's her around a helicopter dodging debris. It looks like she's in a blizzard. It's just a little bit more interesting than the frost one that we had earlier, for example. Moving on from Thunderbird then into 10th place. This is now top 10 territory. These are the 10 best Elite skins in my opinion. Let me know in the comments where you have agreed and disagreed with so far. But in 10th place, we have the Kavira Elite skin, and this is one that uses a lot of red, and I don't know why. There's not a whole lot of red Elite skins I've noticed, and to be honest, it's pretty cool to look at. And obviously it kind of gives me vibes of IQ's Elite skin, how she's like bouncing around, throwing hands and stuff like that, but obviously it does have her own spin on it. And this is another one of those skins that I was talking about earlier, kind of looks a little bit more like Lara Croft than the Lara Croft Ash Elite skin. So let me know what you guys think. In 9th place then, we have the Smoke Elite skin. I really like the animation on this one where he uses his smoke canister, you know, draws a massive S for smoke and then he lets it go and it goes flying. And just in general, again, it involves red. It's one of the better looking Elite skins, and yeah, I just like it. It's probably one of the better ones that Ubisoft have ever released. Moving on into 8th place, we have Azami. Now this is one that again might surprise you because it is a little bit basic, does kind of look like a battle pass cosmetic, but I don't know what it is. I think it just fits her perfectly. I really do like the way this skin looks overall. Moving on into 7th place, we have Bandit, and the reason why I like this one is because there's a lot of detail in those tattoos across his arms. I think the whole biker aesthetic is also pretty cool. The headgear is obviously him with a massive beard and a bold head, which is not a headgear I think we have on any other skins, so it is very unique just for the headgear itself, and I really like what Ubisoft have done here. The only downside is the animation, I guess could have been a little bit better, but he is still sat on a badass looking motorcycle. Moving on to 6th place, we have a former champion here, which is the Echo Elite skin. I have done this video a few times, even on old channels, and he was first place in multiple of those, and I do still really like this Elite skin. I really like the all blacked out fit. I like how he has like those Japanese style shoes things on where he's got like the weird two-toe aesthetic going on, and just the fact that he's, you know, jumping around doing flips and has his echo drones in there as well is just what really puts the icing on the cake here. Moving on into 5th place then, we have the Fenrir Elite skin. I really like the animation on this one. It is absolute nightmare fuel. It ties in perfectly with his gadget, with his fear toxins and stuff stuff like that, and it really does still give me Scarecrow aesthetics from Batman. Moving on to 4th place then, we have the Buck Elite skin, and I said earlier about the Thunderbird thing being over her eyes. This is it done right. I really do like the way this looks on Buck's aesthetic, and it's just awesome, to be honest. I really like the aesthetic. I like how he shoots the screen in the animation as well. This is just one of the better Elite skins in my opinion, and Buck is probably my most played attacker, so again, could be a little bit of bias why he's so high. Moving on into 3rd place then, we have Tachanka, very similar to Bandit because he obviously has a lot of detail in the tattoos. I don't know what it is about tattoos in Siege, but they look really good all the time. Unlike the facial hair, most of the time, I think tattoos always look good in Siege for some reason, and again, this one just looks badass, and only Tachanka could pull this off, by the way. Moving on into 2nd place then, we have the Nook Elite skin. This is again a very nice looking Elite skin, all blacked out once again. Interesting animation where she's dancing around and doing all sorts of stuff, and obviously glitches around as well, paying homage to her gadget. And just in general, I really like the vibe of this skin. And then finally, finishing off the video, this took way longer to record than I intended to, we have the Hibana Elite skin. And again, I really like the skin on this one. The uniform specifically is great. I think the headgear maybe could have been a little bit more interesting, but at least it doesn't take away from the uniform. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let me know where you agree, where you disagree. What is your favorite Elite skin, and which one do you think is the worst? Those are the two that I really care about. So leave your best and worst Elite skins down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Click the video on screen. Goodbye.